In the heart of a relentless downpour that turned the bustling city streets into rivers of despair, where the neon lights flickered like distant stars struggling against the encroaching darkness, a man named Alexander Harrington gripped the steering wheel of his sleek black Mercedes, his mind a whirlwind of corporate battles won and personal losses endured. Alexander, a self-made millionaire at the tender age of 38, had built an empire from the ashes of his humble beginnings, rising through the ranks of the tech industry with a ruthless determination that left competitors in the dust. Yet his life was a hollow shell, echoing with the silence of a home devoid of laughter since the tragic accident that claimed his wife's life 5 years ago, leaving him to raise their young son alone in a mansion that felt more like a mausoleum than a sanctuary. As the rain hammered against the windshield like accusations from the heavens, Alexander's thoughts drifted to his son, little Ethan, who at 8 years old was the only light in his otherwise shadowed existence, a boy with boundless energy and a heart full of questions about the mother he barely remembered, questions that Alexander answered with half-truths and forced smiles, hiding the pain that gnawed at him every night. The wipers slashed back and forth in a futile battle against the torrent, and Alexander cursed under his breath as traffic crawled to a halt, the city gridlocked by the storm that had caught everyone off guard, including him, who had just wrapped up a late-night meeting sealing a deal worth millions, a victory that should have elated him but instead left him feeling emptier than ever. It was in this moment of frustration, as he glanced out the side window to gauge the delay, that his eyes caught a small figure huddled against the side of a dilapidated bus shelter, a girl no older than 10, her frail body shaking with sobs that were drowned out by the roar of the rain, her wheelchair tilted precariously against the curb, wheels mired in a puddle that threatened to swallow her whole. She was drenched, her thin dress clinging to her skin like a second layer of misery, and her hair plastered across her face, hiding eyes that Alexander could only imagine were filled with the kind of despair that no child should ever know. Something stirred within him, a paternal instinct long suppressed by the demands of his empire, and without a second thought, he pulled over, ignoring the blaring horns of impatient drivers behind him, stepping out into the deluge that soaked his tailored suit in seconds, his expensive loafers splashing through the floodwaters as he approached her. "Hey there, little one," he called out gently, his voice cutting through the storm like a lifeline, "are you okay? Where are your parents?" The girl looked up, her face streaked with tears and rain, revealing eyes that were a startling blue, wide with fear and surprise, and she shook her head, her small hands clutching the arms of her wheelchair as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the world. She didn't speak at first, her lips trembling, but Alexander noticed the way her legs dangled lifelessly, a telltale sign of her disability, perhaps from birth or some cruel twist of fate, and his heart ached with a sympathy he hadn't felt in years. "I'm all alone," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible over the thunder. "They left me, said I was too much trouble." The words hit Alexander like a punch to the gut, evoking memories of his own childhood abandonment, when his parents had walked out on him at age 12, forcing him to fend for himself in foster homes that offered no warmth, only survival lessons that forged his unyielding ambition. He knelt down to her level, rain cascading down his face, and extended a hand. "Come with me. I won't leave you here. Let's get you out of this rain." She hesitated, her eyes searching his for any sign of deceit, but in that moment, something passed between them, a silent understanding born of shared loneliness, and she nodded, allowing him to lift her gently from the wheelchair, her light frame surprising him as he carried her to the car, folding the chair with practiced ease, though he had no practice, only instinct, and placing it in the trunk. As he settled her in the passenger seat, wrapping her in his overcoat that dwarfed her tiny body, Alexander felt a spark of purpose ignite within him, a feeling he thought had died with his wife, Sarah, whose memory now seemed to whisper approval from the ether. Driving away from the curb, the city lights blurring through the rain-streaked windows, Alexander glanced at the girl, who had introduced herself as Lily, her voice gaining strength as the heater warmed the car, telling him in halting sentences about her life in a rundown orphanage where the staff had grown weary of her needs, her cerebral palsy making simple tasks a Herculean effort, and how she had wandered out that evening in search of something, anything, to escape the suffocating routine, only to be caught in the storm. Alexander listened, his usual stoic facade cracking as empathy flooded in, and he made a split-second decision to take her to his home, not the authorities, at least not yet, reasoning that one night of safety couldn't hurt, especially with Ethan waiting at home with the nanny. Perhaps this unexpected guest would bring a bit of chaos to their orderly lives. Arriving at the sprawling estate on the outskirts of the city, where manicured lawns stretched under the now easing rain, Alexander carried Lily inside, the grand foyer echoing with their footsteps, and called for Mrs. Jenkins, the housekeeper who had been with him since Ethan's birth, her kind eyes widening at the sight of the soaking child. "Good heavens, Mr. Harrington, who's this?" she exclaimed, bustling forward with towels and warm clothes, while Ethan peeked from the staircase, his curious gaze fixed on Lily, who managed a shy smile despite her exhaustion. As they settled her in the guest room, Alexander's mind raced with questions. What was her full story? How could he help without overstepping? But for now, he focused on the immediate, ensuring she was fed a hot meal of soup and bread, her wheelchair parked beside the bed, and as she drifted off to sleep, whispering a thank you that tugged at his heartstrings, Alexander sat in his study, staring at the rain-lashed windows, pondering the twist of fate that had brought this fragile soul into his life. The next morning dawned bright, the storm a distant memory, and Alexander found himself drawn to Lily's room, where she was already awake, her eyes bright with wonder at the opulent surroundings, so different from the drab orphanage walls she knew. Ethan, ever the bundle of energy, bounded in with questions. "What's wrong with your legs? Can I push your wheelchair?" His innocence disarming any potential awkwardness, and Lily laughed, a sound like tinkling bells that filled the house with unexpected joy. Alexander watched from the doorway, a smile creeping onto his face as the two children bonded over breakfast, Ethan sharing stories of his school adventures while Lily recounted tales of imaginary worlds she escaped to in her mind, her disability never defining her spirit. But beneath the surface warmth, doubts crept in. Alexander knew he couldn't just keep her. There were legalities, protocols, and the risk of attachment that could shatter if things went wrong. He decided to contact the orphanage discreetly, learning from a harried administrator that Lily had indeed run away, her file marked with notes of behavioral issues stemming from neglect, and that they were relieved someone had found her, but reclamation would take time. In the interim, Alexander invited her to stay, rationalizing it as temporary aid, but as days turned into a week, the mansion transformed, Ethan's laughter echoing through halls that had been silent, Lily's presence a catalyst for change. Alexander found himself rearranging his schedule, delegating meetings to spend time with them, teaching Lily to use adaptive technology from his company's prototypes, her quick mind absorbing knowledge like a sponge, revealing a prodigious talent for puzzles and logic that mirrored his own youthful ingenuity. Yet, emotional undercurrents swirled, Lily's nightmares of abandonment woke her screaming, and Alexander would rush to her side, holding her until calm returned, memories of Sarah's final days haunting him, her battle with cancer a reminder of life's fragility. Ethan, too, opened up about missing a mother figure, and in Lily, he saw a sister, pleading with his father to let her stay forever. Alexander's heart waged war with his head, the millionaire accustomed to control now facing the uncontrollable tide of affection, and as he tucked them both in one evening, reading a bedtime story of lost children finding home, he realized this encounter was no accident, but a chance for redemption. The chapter unfolded with tender moments, like a picnic in the garden where Lily's wheelchair navigated the paths with Ethan's help, their giggles mingling with birdsong, and Alexander capturing it on his phone, a rare vulnerability showing as tears pricked his eyes. Challenges arose, too. Lily's medical needs required specialist visits, and Alexander spared no expense, hiring therapists and equipping a room with state-of-the-art aids, but whispers from his business associates questioned his focus, rumors of distraction threatening his empire. Undeterred, he pressed on, discovering Lily's backstory through private investigators. Born to addict parents who surrendered her at birth due to her condition, bounced between fosters until the orphanage, her cries in the rain a culmination of years of feeling unwanted. This knowledge fueled Alexander's resolve, and he began the arduous process of fostering, navigating bureaucracy with his legal team, all while bonding deepened. One poignant night, as thunder rumbled again, reminiscent of their meeting, Lily confessed her fear of being sent back, and Alexander, kneeling beside her, promised, "You're home now, if you'll have us," words that sealed an unspoken pact. The chapter built to a crescendo of hope, with Alexander reflecting on how a single act of kindness in the rain had cracked open his armored heart, allowing love to flood in, setting the stage for transformations yet to come, as the family of three, man, boy, and girl, faced the future together, unaware of the trials ahead but fortified by newfound connection.